good faith. Geraint Davies.
Mr Speaker, resisting a customs union and a single market without a mandate from the voters, which we have not, would be an act of grotesque economic irresponsibility. Being in the customs union means we're part of Team Europe and we're negotiating with big blocs like the United States, like China, like Japan. If we leave, we will be one player against our whole team. And the idea that we can negotiate better terms is completely farcical. And the idea that we can actually get more trade to compensate for the lost trade from turning our backs on the EU in terms of the single market, in terms of tariffs, in terms of product standards and barriers, is again absurd. People may be aware of the economic model of trade called the gravity model, which basically says that the closer and bigger a market is, the more there is trade. And empirically, over the last 140 years, it's been found that the relationship is halve the distance and you double the trade. And that basically accounts for the fact that the EU has 50% of its trade with the UK has 50% of its trade with the UK. 60% of the trade in Wales, North East and Yorkshire is with the EU. And so what we find is in Britain, some of the poorer areas that did vote Brexit are going to suffer much worse if we end up with a situation where we're not in a single market and we're not in a customs union, because some people still believe, because of government spokespeople, that we can boldly go and trade where other people haven't been before, when in fact we're already trading with them. And we also know that the Permanent Secretary, who was the Permanent Secretary of International Development Department, the International Trade Department, of course, likened the idea of leaving the single market and the customs union to swapping a three-course meal for the promise of a packet of crisps. He was right. And why did he say that? Because if you look at the big markets where the opportunities are there opportunities? There's the United States. Donald Trump, his inaugural address, saying he would stop the foreign countries ravaging his economy. He would stop them taking the jobs, taking the products, and basically importing more than they were exporting. And we've seen with Bombardier, we've seen with EU Steel, we've seen with tariffs on China, that US will act against anyone who thinks they can gain any advantage. And US is much, much bigger than us alone as opposed to part of the EU. What's more, they're going to try to import their standards, be it on chemicals and food, the environment, workers' rights, and that will prevent us then exporting to the EU. In terms of China, we've already heard that the Germans export 4 times more to China than we do. We can do that on our own. China, again, will be much more powerful. They've already demanded they will build Hinkley Point, even though the cost of energy is sky high. They've already negotiated they will build HS2. They'll be coming in, taking our jobs, exporting our jobs. We'll be just like putty in their hands and have no ability to negotiate on human rights, carbon, etc. On Japan, the EU is doing a trade deal which will embrace a third of the economy of the world. If that trade deal is secured after March next year, we won't be part of it. 40% of Japanese investment in the EU is in the UK. We will lose that. And it's not just cars. I'm talking about financial services here, because, and 80% of our exports are services, of course. So that EU-Japanese deal will include financial services, and we will be out of it. So therefore, a centre of gravity of financial services will grow in Europe, the axis of yen, euro, and that will hurt our city of London as well. As for third countries, 14% of our trade is with third countries. We already know Chile, South Korea, Australia have already said they'll want to change the terms of trade, so will the others. In terms of timing, we'll end up without any trade deals in the transition period, then we'll just basically close the door behind us and it will be a complete nightmare. And whatever we agree, actually, after March, we'll have left and Wallonia can just vote it down. We'll end up with no deal. So why are the government doing this? Why is the government like a doctor prescribing cigarettes to someone with anxiety, knowing that ultimately it will kill them? And the answer is because they know the only hope for Brexit voters is they believe that there will be these trade deals, and the government knows there won't be. And that's why Lord Patten, Lord Heseltine, Lord Langley Willits, all these people have put country before party. And the people out there know this is too complex, too costly, and too much time, and it doesn't work.
Grieve. Thank you. Dominic Grieve.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to participate in this debate. I don't want to repeat